Good evening. I call to order this meeting of USD489 Board of Education for April 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. This is a work session. As I mentioned before, our plan for this academic year was to hold our work sessions in different district buildings throughout the year. Due to the pandemic, of course, we had to modify our plans. So we have a presentation from two of our buildings today. The first item on the agenda is the approval of our agenda. Our agenda is posted on board docs, a link for which is on the USD489 website. I move to accept the agenda as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion about the agenda itself? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Very good. The next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes board meeting minutes from March 29th, special board meeting minutes from April 5th, personnel transactions, and financials.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All right. Any discussion about the consent agenda? Okay, very good. Actually, I do have something to add. I will welcome our new employees. I want to welcome Conrad, Grace, Olivia, Coulter, Chanel, Angie, and Megan to USD489. Okay, board, all in favor of the, did I say that yet?
Take the vote. Yeah.
Did I say the vote?
No, you need to take the
Oh,
vote.
okay, I always lose track. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, motion passes 5-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Very good. All right, next item is presentations. Today we have presentations from Westside School and from Roosevelt Elementary. Ron, do you want to say anything before we just jump into it?
No, I'll bring up Lindy and Adam and let them tell us the great things going on West Side.
Hello, I'm Lindy McDaniel. I'm the Assistant Special Ed Director, just started this year. Along with my duties as Assistant Special Ed Director, I also serve as the Educational Principal for Westside School. And I have with me...
I am Adam Adams. I am the Westside Program Coordinator. I still oversee all the behavioral issues with the sort of the High Plains side of Westside.
So tonight we're just going to do a little bit of an introduction of what Westside has to offer our students. So to start, we wanted to start with just a testimonial from a parent. So it starts out with, teachers don't like kids like me. You know, the kids that can't listen very well and can't sit still. This was my child's response. This is from a parent. This was my child's response to his sister last summer as we were preparing her for starting preschool. At age 6, he had enough wisdom to know his sister would be fine at school because she had the listening and sitting still concepts, two skills somewhat elusive to him. It was a heartbreaking moment as a parent, heartbreaking because it was true, heartbreaking because he had so many years of school ahead of him, heartbreaking because not being able to help your own child is the worst kind of pain. It then made me reflect on our child's introduction into the public school system and his very quick exit to Westside. Westside, why would any parent put their child at Westside? Westside is a school for the bad kids, the behavior kids. And then she has a definition of behavior. I'll let you read that for yourselves. But basically, it helps us recognize that we all have behavior. Here is where she wanted to go with that. So here is where it gets complicated. Neurodiversity, everyone has neurodiversity or brain differences. Things like autism, ADHD, mental health, and sensory processing disorders are just variations of the human brain. However, these brain differences specifically impact the ability to respond to stimulation and the environment, which makes me circle back to the original question. Why would any parent put their child at Westside? Here's our family's reasons for why. Westside offers a change of environment to meet my child's needs. When my child is in the right environment and his needs are met, he can grow and learn. When my child can grow and learn in a way that best is best for him, he becomes more confident. When my child is more confident in his skills, he no longer has a reason to communicate about the situation through undesired behavior. This comes to us from a first grade child and parent, one that I happen to know when he was in kindergarten and he was in an elementary building. And it really makes me reflect on what it is our students need. Not all students can be served in the same way. Here is another testimonial from a sixth grade parent, noting that she's just pleasantly surprised with what Westside has had to offer her son, as it is a perfect fit. Less noise, more one-on-one with teachers, close supervision, and the immediate response from counselors and teachers when he struggles socially, and made a world of difference for him. He loves coming to school at Westside. Kind of taking the negative connotation out of Westside. For the longest time, I was one of those professionals that was saying, oh, why would you ever want your kid to go to Westside? If they go to Westside, they're only going to learn bad behavior. But I really did a 180 and a flip as I started working with Adam, Mrs. Emerson, Miss Molly, and Miss Kay, our teachers at Westside. Just knowing that some kids need something different. As we were brainstorming earlier this year, we recognized that Westside does not have a mascot. Westside does not have a logo. Westside does not have a school color. So what does that bring to the kids? When they come to that school, they feel defeated. They feel like they don't belong to anything. So as we were discussing at a staff meeting, we recognized that the only color that's not represented in our special ed co-op and in the Hayes district is the color green.
Okay.
And then lo and behold, what does green represent? Mental health. Mental health awareness is the color for green. And so Westside completes the rainbow because some students just need a little alternative. So we're going to go through just a little bit of what Westside has to offer because it's kind of an unknown. People, again, think, oh, that's the behavior school. That's where kids go when they're naughty or when they can't control themselves in the regular school. But there are some kids that need that jump start just to get what they need. So here's a day in the life of a Westside student. If you notice, they have all academic instruction that any other kid has. The difference being they have a morning High Plains group with Mr. Adams and his staff, and they flip. So this is our kindergarten through fourth grade classroom, and they flip so everybody gets that intentional practice of those social skills. And then at the end of the day, they have social emotional learning and another High Plains group to reflect on how did they do for the day, what can we do better, and those types of things. As you can see, it's pretty small, but you can see that's the daily schedule the kids see. As they gain skills, if you can see that red circle, those are kids that are in transition. Those are kids that get to go out to their home school. Our hope is that all kids get transition time. Research shows the longer they're away from their actual school, the harder it is to come back. And so that's definitely something that we strive for. How the kids get there. They bring their best every day. And if you came to Westside School, you probably would be like, is that their best? But it is. They are working very hard, and social interactions and self-regulation are super hard skills for them. One of the things our elementary building is starting to do is success slips. So if you see up at the top, it says, I'm going to, and then they're going to commit to all those things, being respectful, being responsible to property and people, following directions, and completing my work. Then this is the student that was mentioned in the first slide, that first grade student. This is his monthly tracking. So he's trying to get 18 hole punches per day. When he gets that, he gets some transition time and he proves to us that yes, he's ready to go back to his home school. And so you can see he's in the pink and the blue and the green, meaning that he gets those rewards and gets to go to his home school. Currently, 44% of Westside students have transition time. Each week, Adam and his staff and myself, when my schedule allows, all meet together in team meeting and discuss where are we at, what is the progress we need to see, and where do we need to go next. Alone, we can do so little, but together we can do so much. One of the big goals for Westside School is to start partnering more with our home schools. We know research shows that kids can make 2 years progress in 1 year's time if they have a collaborative team behind them. And so just creating that collaborative team really helps. Our other vision is that we would like to provide that quality learning experience for every student every day using our mission statement and our vision. High student achievement, highly effective staff, effective praise and communication, and effective management of resources. And this is a narrative written by a kindergarten teacher, and just her explanation of She was at her wit's end. She didn't know what else to do with her kindergarten student. She reached out to Westside. The child was accepted to Westside through High Plains Services and through the district in special education. And then that child had a turnaround to get to come back to his home school. Not full days, but he gets to come and participate with them at the end of every day, creating an opportunity to build capacity for her and her team and for her student. Her team alone learned new skills to strategize and work with the student. Just another example, this is a third grade child who actually graduated from Westside at the beginning of this school year. He was sold new possibilities and opportunities for his future. He is now at Lincoln full-time and doing well. This is a note from his teacher. The part I like the most is this student has shown tremendous improvement. I attribute that to the foundation skills that he learned at Westside School. So with that, we would kind of like to just share our next steps. We've been going through some growing or leadership changes. Adam is new as the program coordinator. Apparently I don't like to let him talk. He said he didn't want to. For the record, he did not want to talk, unless you have questions. But he was the therapist at Westside School, and something I didn't mention is that our kids, as needed, get family therapy as well as individual one-on-one therapy sessions. And these are next steps for us. We'd like to become a toolbox of resources for our district and co-op staff. Our vision is that when a teacher doesn't know how to teach their hardest student, come to Westside, learn some new strategies. We'd love to help you help your student. If we can help one teacher teach their student, we've just taught her or him to teach multiple students. And then we also want to work to decrease their turnaround rate for students. The longer a student stays at Westside, the harder the transition becomes. With a shorter turnaround rate, we are able to serve more students as well. And then we want to continue to build renovations for Westside School and increase family and community engagement. So over Christmas break, my 3 staff teachers, they were up at school the entire break, painting and repurposing our school. We did not have a library before. As you see under the You Matter, that was what our library looked like. It was books from Jefferson School years ago. We asked the foundation to offer books that actually pertain to our kids and were of interest to our kids. And then the kids came up over Christmas break and helped paint the library and also paint the floor a little bit. Sorry about that. But they were very proud of their work. And then custodial staff also helped us replace the very old closet doors that you see up there and replace them with lockers from Washington School. So we were able to really give the kids that experience of really what school would look like for our middle school and high school kids with lockers. With that, we open it up for questions. We would also like to share the kids made magnets that say every student every day. 489, and we thank you for sticking by us as we are kind of those kids that just need a little alternative. I'd also like to recognize, I know we're a little bit off from Teacher Week, but our teachers at Westside are one of a kind. They collaborate and do lots of work throughout the district, and we really couldn't do it without them. So Miss Kay, she's our high school teacher. And Miss Emerson is our middle school and upper elementary, and then Miss Molly is new to our team. She started mid-year, so she gets the prize for being brand new. And she's our elementary. Thank you, girls, for all that you do. And I will pass these around. Adam, you are up for questions. You're the one that gets the answer.
You may have covered this, I don't recall. How many kids do you have, or students do you have at Westside?
We have 28 right now,
Okay. And roughly, are they all K through 12, or is there some?
K through 12. We have, basically it's even numbers, like 10 apiece in each class room at this moment right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Can you share, what is the collaboration, the partnership you have with High Plains?
So, High Plains and USD489, we work collaborate together in the building. So, in the classroom, we have a teacher, 1 to 3 paras, and then 2 recovery specialists, which are like case managers. So in the classroom, we're there to provide them with academics, but also the assistance of reducing the anxiety, the fear, the frustration, which comes with math, reading, being around peers, being around friends, you know, so taking noise that no one else can hear but the kid, you know, trying to help them, calm them, and work through these problems to eventually get to a point where when you go to a bigger setting, in a bigger classroom, you can manage these all within the skills that we've taught you.
And this is still the only partnership in the state, correct? Similar to this, or is that,
I think there are some that are starting to have like mental health liaisons through the school health initiative through the State Department, but none that are like a true partnership in one building. So something unique about us, and we are going to be turning 30 years old next year, school year.
Wow.
So it started in '91.
Nice.
wow.
Wait a minute, my oldest daughter was born in 1991. That can't be right.
I know in the past, there was a lot of local organizations involved with West Side. Has that changed over the years? Is West Side and USD489 the only two organizations that work with West Side? I know it used to be like the district attorney and a lot of positions like that.
During the committee to accept or decline students to come to Westside, we meet with a bunch of resources like St. Francis and DCF and stuff like that. As far as Westside and USD goes, we resource out to a lot of those organizations. Not necessarily they're with us in the building or like they're in and out. If we have a problem, we kind of resource out and then we talk to them about questions and get answers and problem solve.
One other question, I think I know the answer. How, space-wise, building-wise, are we meeting your needs?
We could definitely use more space. Especially when, you know, we have kids being upset, we need to, you know, take them out and get different, like, rooms and stuff. It gets very crowded. It gets to the point where we don't have anywhere else, but we're sitting in a hallway talking to a kid when that's probably not the best environment for them at that moment, you know.
This summer, we are doing quite a few renovations, one being the secure entrance. Will be one of the last schools to do the secure entrance. We have windows that are pretty leaky, so we're hoping to get the windows finished and fixed. Just overall, the school building is pretty limited in what it has to offer us. We are working toward having a community garage sale this summer, and the kids won't be a part of the selling just because we want to keep their identities out of from others, but they will be a part of the folding and pricing and all of the things to prepare for that event. So, because we would love to have a better playground for our kids, something a little bit more age appropriate for the kids that use the facilities.
Does space limitations keep you from taking any students in? I mean, has there ever been denied
There have been in
service?
the past. It's been a while since we've had to deny someone because of space. Since I've been there, I have to go back further to determine what that looked like, but it does get to a point where you have, you know, spacing issues and you have kids that are behaviorally incident or significant, or, you know, they have some significant behaviors, and so you have to determine, can these kids all group together and work together at the same time?
One of the things that we really struggle with is our elementary kids have to stay downstairs because of the stairs and the requirements. And so that has created quite a bit of just extra behavior because the more kids in this little bitty classroom, the higher, you know, the noise volume, and if the kid does have a red zone or a crisis moment, how to get them out of that without harming or kind of setting the other children off this stuff. This year too, because of COVID, we are eating lunch at Westside School. Normally we go to a Laughlin school. And that has been a challenge too, just being in one small building all day long. To speak for the staff, I don't necessarily work there every day because I have other opportunities or job responsibilities, but there is no staff lounge over there. So that's one thing that we're working on over the summer is to give the staff a space to breathe and just get some of their own time because that is challenging. There's no conference room, there's no place for staff to meet, so.
Okay.
And that's the same for the children, right? They don't have any facilities to stretch and play themselves either, right? And you're not able to go to the other schools'
We utilize
playground?
the gym here at the building,
Okay.
but, I mean, we share that with occupational therapy or physical therapy, you know, so Even then, spacing and timing is kind of hit or miss, depending on,
Quick question, have you had any contact with any past attendees of West Side, really good success stories? As far as 30 years, I would imagine there's some adults now that should be pretty functioning.
yes, we've had, like I said, we've had our parents and stuff, and even kids' other parents come through, you know, and they are so open, they're like, this helped me so much, and we're excited to see the progress of our kid, you know, it's like they're even no more eager to come in.
And is that a story that's ever been able to share with any of the students that are currently there to help inspire and motivate any of those struggling with this, the social, emotional, the self-esteem things that may really trigger some of the students that are maybe struggling with their identity, being at the school that's just now getting a mascot, just now getting a color, you know?
We even do that with kids transitioning currently, you know, like next time, like, hey, you know, it's not an empty road, you know, like you see the progress kids upstairs are making, or kids, even your peer next to you. So we use past examples, we use even current examples to help them kind of see that motivation.
The goal definitely is to kind of reduce the, oh, that's just the kid, the schoolwork kids go when they're bad. We want it to be viewed as the schoolwork kids get what they need when they need it to be successful for them.
Yeah, it's really hard, you know, there's only so much you can do with the students. Unfortunately, those kind of ideals usually come externally not from those kids, unfortunately.
I would like to,
go ahead.
I'd like to add a couple comments, just
Yep.
on the space, you know, and I think, as educational people, we are the masters of taking what we get and making it work for our needs. But it's very obvious that, what they do at Westside really is not adequate space, but they make it work in wonderful ways. So I think that's just what we do as educational people. So the other thing is, I think that's the thing that West Side, what is there is just it's kind of our unknown shining star in our district. It doesn't get a lot of maybe press or the accolades that they deserve. Staff has just been amazing in what they do every day and how they mold kids and develop kids and get them to where they need to go. We've had great conversations. Adam, Lindy, and I have been able to sit down and really try to shape this vision for what we see West Side being. Credit to Lindy and Adam for what they have done to take it to where it is, and I don't think we're done. We have a lot of ideas out there. What I love about West Side, and it really just touches on what our core values of the district core values, being a champion for all kids. These are not kids that are just off on an island. We hope they start to do better so they can come back. These are kids that are our kids, and we want to do everything we can to make their experience the most valuable quality learning experience every day. So just love what they're doing, and this is just, you know, and this is, I think this is the first time they've presented as far as West Side being on the list. So I think this is a new step to get their name out there and what they're doing. So just wanted to add that.
You mentioned the color green, but you didn't mention a mascot. Have you picked a mascot yet?
Well, it's under debate. So we have a student that really wants us to be bears, because we have a bears den where the kids go when they're upset. But then we also have a student that wants the wolves, because wolves appear to be really angry, but they're really nice creatures. So we're going to be doing some research, I do believe, to figure out, and the kids will vote on what we will be.
All right, sounds great.
If you have any recommendations for us, put them on the ballot.
Okay, we'll let you know. All right,
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Lindy and Adam, thank you very much.
Ronna, I think you're going to need to up your game because the Ride My Bus is not quite as cool as this, so.
Game on.
Good evening. How are you?
Hey, Carrie, how are
I'm
you?
Carrie Peterson, principal at Roosevelt. What I wanted to really share with you were two different areas of the building, and all of the great things that are going on within those two areas. So I invited kindergarten and my lead teachers, and I would like them to just share a little bit about what they do on a day-to-day basis and go from there. So I don't know that I've ever used a clicker. Which one do I use? Told you I'd never used one of these before. Okay, thank you. I'm pretty techie, but apparently not tonight. So, at Roosevelt, our goal is to provide a quality learning experience for every student every day. We like to recognize student achievements, big and small. Our little lady there, she counted and wrote her numbers to 1,000. And so Mrs. Callahan called the office, hey, can you take a selfie with her? Sure. Lots of fun. I enjoy doing that. Second grade, they build a city every year. And so in that city, they also vote for mayor, and it was quite a race. So that was one of the pictures of the young ladies that decided to run for mayor. And on our last one, Global Day of Play was, I had honestly, as an elementary teacher, never participated in it, and wow, was it really awesome. We also brought in and invited high schoolers to come in and spend time with our students. So the building was full of energy and just a lot of fun stuff was going on, and that's something kindergarten can tell you a little bit more about too. So, all right. Two members of the kindergarten team, so Michelle Callahan and Misty Lohmeyer, and they will share with you some of the items that they do.
Hi. We definitely faced challenges this year that we've never faced before with COVID, and knowing that our students are coming in maybe without finishing all of preschool. You know, each preschool did it differently, so we knew that they were coming in different than we've seen them, and we also started later than we normally do as well. So we've had less time with these children, and they've had less time in a school environment. And so far this year, we are seeing no setbacks with our students. We are seeing them as, on level as they've been in the past, or in some even higher. And we have a lot of things that we kind of contribute this to, and it's not because we're so, good at teaching. It's because of the things that are in place in our buildings this year. We have had the chance to do a lot of intervention time with our students. We have aides in our classrooms, in the kindergarten classrooms, and these aides are there to work specifically on interventions with our students. So we have intervention teams going constantly throughout the day in our building. We pull kids for fine motor interventions because that's something that we are really struggling with when we come into kindergarten this year and every year. Fine motor is a huge concern for us. And so our interventions are not just academic space. They definitely are academic space. We're definitely pulling children and reinforcing their academic skills, their letter sounds, their counting, all of that kind of stuff. But we also, with our aides, are able to create groups specifically for fine motor and specifically for social skills, which is something that's a pretty big concern for us as well. Their mental health, like tying into the things that Westside was saying, their mental health and their social skills, especially with it being, locked down for so many months before that, we've seen some challenges there, but these aides have allowed us to really target our instruction, not just whole group all the time, pulling small groups constantly throughout the day, getting extra help, going over corrections, redoing learning stations, or having somebody there during your learning station to really make sure that the children are doing what they need to do to get the most out of what they're doing. Another reason why our year has been so successful is because we've had smaller class sizes this year, because we've added a 4th section of kindergarten to our building. And having drastically smaller class sizes has allowed us to really reach each one of our children. It's always easy to see in a normal classroom, with 23, 24 kindergartners, we know who our children are who need the most help every year, no matter how big our class is. But this year, when we have smaller class sizes, we see the ones who need the most help, but then we also see the ones that sometimes fall through the cracks in kindergarten, the ones who aren't screaming out for help the loudest. We can still see them, or we're able to see them this year, and that way we can make sure that we're helping them in ways that they might not have been able to be helped in years past, just because we have more ability to reach those students. So the interventions with the aides and the smaller class sizes have made a huge difference, and we are so thankful that we've gotten to experience that this year, and we pray that we keep getting to, experience that, just because it's definitely made a difference in these children's lives, for sure. Am I missing anything in there? Okay, I'm gonna pass it to Misty.
Okay.
To kind of piggyback off what Michelle said with social emotional, we've noticed that was a skill, and not only that, but it's also now a standard, like the social emotional standard. So we knew that that was important. A few years ago, all of the kindergarten teachers, or most of the kindergarten teachers in the district, actually had a book study that we knew kindergarten readiness was important. And the number one topic that kept coming out was play. You've got to bring back a little bit of play in kindergarten, because that's how their little brains learn. And we have to remember they're 5. I mean, they're still little kids. And then many of us also, the kindergarten teachers, were fortunate enough before COVID to attend a kindergarten workshop in Hutchinson. And a state representative was there, and he brought it up again. He said, this is something that you need to have in your classroom. Like, it's not even an option, you need to have it. So we all got together and we thought, okay, we need to revamp the way we're doing things. We still need to push our kids, and learning is important, but we somehow need to do it in a way that we're incorporating it in play. So one of the things that we do is we all have, the first thing they do in the morning, they put away their stuff and they just go play. And one of them, it helps regulate them. Some of them, they come from all different kinds of backgrounds and mornings, and this is a place where they're not just coming to school and the first thing they do is like, okay, let's add and subtract and read. They just get some time to just adapt. And also that social emotional skill is huge. I mean, they're learning how to share with each other and work out their issues and work out problems, and learning how to play together and share. But they're also learning how to use their imagination, which we were surprised. Like, at the beginning, it's almost shocking to see how many kids maybe aren't doing that, that you would think are. But now they play and they collaborate together, and it's amazing to see. The other thing that we are bringing in is learning stations, which is academic play. So maybe they're learning how to add and subtract or make letters with Play-Doh, so that they could build those fine motor skills, but yet at the same time, they think they're playing, and they're building their words. We do everything from fine motor skills, all subject areas, but all of them come through little games or stations that they can do while still collaborating with each other and having that play. And we have noticed, I've noticed a drastic improvement in behavior, working out problems, sometimes even the tattling, they're able to just communicate better with each other. Also just being able to, like those skills, like it's amazing how even though we now took out a chunk of time to just play, like Michelle said, they are actually where they need to be or even farther than what they were before, which with everything going on in COVID, and I know what they were lacking, that's amazing. And so we're very grateful, and I know that we'll continue doing this because we've seen a great success. The other part that we were going to talk about is because this last 9 weeks is always tough for every kid, K through 12. Tough for the teachers, tough for the kids just to hang in there, and we see summer so close, and it's tough to keep them motivated. But especially because we started the school year later, we go a little bit later, and that's even a little more challenging. So we are really focusing hard on how to keep these kids engaged, and not only the kids, but the teachers too. We got to keep it all fun. We have to keep them engaged. So we have all K-1 teachers have incubators right now, and in 14 days we'll all be little chick mamas, and we're going to have a bunch of babies in our hallway. We have caterpillars coming, so we have that life cycle going. We are going on nature walks. We're doing whatever we can, room transformations, just to keep these kids motivated and to keep learning exciting all the way till the end, so that we don't have that burnout. So they just want to keep going and going and make learning just as fun as exciting as we can. All right.
So a few of the pictures that they sent me, a lot of pictures, but I couldn't get them all on here. So collaborative learning and Global Day of Play, that was a lot of fun. I can't even explain to you just how cool it was to see all of these big kids in the building with the little kids, and they're all interacting, and that was a lot of fun. So, and if you walk into any of our kindergarten rooms, you're going to see a lot of color, a lot of action, and kids who are busy doing hands-on learning activities. So, so I guess I'll move on to my lead team. Aubrey Brooks, Jennifer Grabby, and Mary Wagner. They are all, in a lot of buildings, what you would refer to as your resource teachers. So they work with our special ed population. Aubrey works with our K-1 kiddos. Jennifer works with our 2-3s, and I think you have a 4-4. And Mary also, she works with our 4-5s. So I will let them share with you all of the things that they do.
Great.
LEAD stands for Leveled Education with Accommodations and Differentiations. We want it to be more than just a resource room. We really want kids to learn, to come in and learn and enjoy themselves. We take some kids from STAR. We do some transition with our STAR teachers as well, and some of those teachers come in and learn, or students come in and learn with us. We have, in Aubrey's room, she has a calm corner, and that's shared between the two of us, where they use calming techniques. There's also some sensory things that they can use to kind of help them calm down, or whatever they would need them for. In Mary's room,
in my room, we are located right across from the STAR room, which is actually really wonderful this year. And the kids can use what's called the motor lab a lot. It really gets big movement for big kids. Having the largest kids in the school, it's important to have space for them to like spread out and move around and understand what is their body doing when they're in a dysregulated state, or what does your brain or your body need in order to keep working on your math or your reading or writing. So having that just right down the hall is beautiful. It's really nice when it's built in the classroom as well. However, their bodies are big, so we utilize what we've got.
And we're kind of out of order on the slides. But, so I typically do work with kindergarten, first grade students, but I do have some second graders as well, and also a fourth grader that is transitioning from the functional classroom to resource. So mostly the students I work with are students that are working on pre-reading, pre-writing, pre-math skills, those basic foundational skills. And we do a lot of hands-on, we do a lot of get up and move kind of learning. We do have the calm corner that we utilize a lot. We are also incorporating some ballavisics, some different things to help the kids, cross-body action just to help get their brains ready to work. One thing that I kind of feel like, I used to think maybe resource was almost sometimes kind of just a glorified tutor almost. Not that it was that way, but sometimes it was seen that way. That's not us at all. We have worked really hard to change our program to meet the needs, all the needs of the kids. Lots of different needs of kids in every area, and we also work really hard to give kids what they need, but also, pull back and push them back into the classrooms as often as we need to too. With special ed, there are laws around times and stuff, so we have to work around that. But we work really hard with students' parents and work to give each student the best that we can and help them to be successful in their gen ed classrooms as much as possible.
One thing I think that's really unique in working as a team of lead teachers is that if we're not sure how to meet one student's need, it's really nice that we can brainstorm together, or we could say, hey, what have you tried, or how would this help my student? It's pretty common between the three of us to get together and just kind of pick each other's brains, so to say. Like, we feel some people are better at behaviors, others are better at academics. We really have different strengths, and so we try to play to each other's strengths and the strengths in our classroom. And sometimes during a non-COVID year, of course, it looks like kids getting together. So the fifth graders being a buddy to the kindergartners, or some of my big kids still need social skills that are really foundational to K-1 learning. And so they go in and they join those kids, or some of the 2-3 kids coming and reading to our kids, or vice versa with their stories. They're proud to shine, and that opportunity doesn't come as readily in the gen ed classroom as it can between our rooms. And so we really try to play on that and let them feel celebrated.
In addition, we work a lot with our OT staff or our speech staff. And we work together on different ways we can use our technology, ways like read and write, what we've been doing big time this year. But so it's not just OTs, SLP, resource, but it's all of us together, and we all work together to help them succeed faster.
These are some pictures of some of our areas. The first one is the motor lab that can be utilized by gen ed and our resource teams. The next one is the reading area that we have in our classroom. It's a loft. The students love to go up there. They can either go up on the top or the bottom. And then regulation zone. That's our calm corner where the sensory manipulatives can be. There's also a space where there's nothing if a student just needs a quiet space to go with no, without anything in it. Do you have any questions for us?
We have one more slide. One thing we're really trying to integrate is middle school readiness. So this is just a brief video of a student who's playing what looks like Twister, but it's really a multi-step direction. It's hard for them to give direction, and as you may assume, it's hard for them to take direction sometimes. They love to work with each other, so they're checking out, how to navigate the board, where they should be going, those left, right direction, forward, backwards, some of those nice vocab words. And they're really getting comfortable learning beside one another. So we do this once a week for the rest of the year, and this is kind of simulations of getting ready for what they might need to have in their tool belt for middle school.
Wow, great.
If you can hear them all, it's just really, I love this video. I'm like, send me that video. She snapped it to me the other day. She's like, look what's going on. And just listening to them talk to each other, and then when she told me more about why, the purpose behind it, I'm like, that is just a really great idea. I mean, to say to one of our students, well, you need to turn left on this hallway, or that teacher's door is on the right.
okay.
I mean, those kinds of things, practicing those together, and in an environment where it's safe to make a mistake. So if your friend is saying you move 3 steps to the left and you go right instead, you don't feel like you're not smart because you didn't do it correctly. You get a chance to collect yourself and do it over again. So, which I think is really awesome. Thank you, ladies, very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we are at the biggest, our big slide at the end, the big ending. We have become a Blue Ribbon nominee for the state of Kansas. Awesome. We are one of 5 schools, public schools, who have been nominated. What an honor for staff. And regardless, win, lose, or draw, it's quite an honor just to have your name on that list. So the application process is pretty lengthy, but I believe that our responses in our application were just great, and I'm anxious to hear about what it brings us hopefully in September of 2021. So I don't know, and I'm sure that you do know. I know when we were filling, when I went in and started typing in there, underneath where it says you have to have at least 40% of the students from disadvantaged backgrounds. In our building, they have us marked at 51%.
Right.
And that includes our special ed population, our ELLs, and our free and reduced kiddos. So, which was very interesting to me, because when I went in and I was calculating everything, we weren't right there, but they are looking at a bigger range of students too. So that's a pretty large number for us. And all staff they do a great job with kids every day, and they bring their best every day, and they're champions for kids every day. And really, that's what it's all about. That's what gets you honors such as this. And I've even talked about so many great schools who won't ever receive a nomination like this. So you take advantage of it, and hopefully it will be an award for us in the fall.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very good.
I don't know if you have any questions for me or for any of us.
We were fortunate, before
Yeah.
COVID hit, we were able to take a tour of your school and some of the rooms that you showed us, and that was very exciting.
It
Yeah.
is, and I know every year, I think staff worry, especially OT/PT, they come to me early, like beginning of February. Well, the motor lab, are we gonna be able to keep the motor lab? we need the motor lab. And yes, it takes up an entire classroom, but as long as we can find space for anything else occurring, I think it's just a necessity. We have sensory paths in our hallways, but it's just not quite the same thing as being able to go into the motor lab, or even in Aubrey's room, she has a bicycle. So she has a bicycle they can get on, they can ride. She has a mini trampoline. The same kind of thing in the motor lab, where I think in the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, with a lot of our students, if they're dysregulated, they just need, and it's a quick turnaround time. We're talking 5 minutes tops. They go in, they run through the circuit, and it just helps them refocus. And it is available to all students in the building, not just our SPED population, so.
You know-
And I would love to see more teachers take advantage of it, because I think it's just a really good tool to use for kids, so.
You know, with everything that's gone on the last year, obviously pandemic, everything else, I'm sure we'd all trade about anything to not have to go through that. But kudos to you and your staff for going outside the box and doing some of those other things you mentioned. That's really cool. I hope we can continue to do some of that stuff
Right.
that we've learned during this time that's forced us to do that, and continue to incorporate that as we move forward.
And that's the great thing. I mean, there's so many negatives to COVID, but when you reflect and you think, wow, I don't know that we would have done this if we
Yeah.
hadn't been kind of forced into that direction. And that's one positive, I suppose, if there are any, that we have had to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And how we educate, and what we're doing in our classrooms and inside our school buildings. And yeah, definitely a good thing. And it's nice to have innovative people
Absolutely.
who aren't afraid to try different things.
Carrie, a lot of good stuff. All of it is really cool. The one thing that really hits me, and I'm glad you're following up on it, is the play. Kids, not just kindergarten, first grade, so many of our kids clear up through middle school. Of course, they call it social time, not play. But they learn so much during that play time.
They do, and then that's one, I believe on one of the slides I mentioned soft skills, and that's where they start to learn soft skills, which makes them a lot more employable when they become adults. And I know from working with at-risk population, with high school kiddos, a lot of times those soft skills are just missing, for whatever reason. So it's nice to be able to start those early on and, teach kids how to collaborate. And then it's okay to not always be right. And be a friend and be empathetic. And that's the other thing about our building I really love with the STAR students. And we do have a high number of special ed students in our building, but I also, that teaches other students to be empathetic, to work with somebody who's not just like them. And then it also allows our students who might be lower cognitively to be around students who are higher cognitively, and so they're gaining skills that they might not otherwise gain. So,
It seems to me that there's so many ways that kids can fall through the cracks. And when you talk about your program and the West Side program and the adult education program, it's just great to have these. And there's probably more that I didn't mention, but it's great to have these programs because it helps. Not all of us fit in square pegs, I guess is what I'm saying. So.
most of us.
Not all of us are square pegs, I guess, whatever.
Thank you,
Whatever.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
I'd like to add just a couple comments.
okay.
First of all, I love when staff actually come up, and if you'll notice how they are always kind of reluctant to go up and start speaking, but then after they kind of get warmed up and they're talking about their craft, they kind of just keep going and want to keep going and keep going. It's exciting, and I love that. And I love the passion that they showed and just getting excited about being able to share what the great things. So I think I want to play that into, you'll understand why this school is a Blue Ribbon nominee.
Yes.
It's got great people, great staff, committed to kids, and do it every day. So that's just a credit to you guys, and thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Some great presentations there. Next on the agenda is our district communication. Superintendent Wilson has some items to discuss, so I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, I've got great news that's even as good as that news. We started the week off in a great fashion today. We did a little surprise announcement at Wilson Elementary, and Nita Sheeby was awarded the Area 4 Kansas Elementary Principal of the Year this morning at Wilson Elementary. So
Yeah, give her
congratulations. That was a neat little ceremony, and we did a little surprise and had to stall her and tell her some fibs for a while, but got it done. Senate Bill 75, I've been visiting with you about this. I just, I don't always give you good news, but maybe I have a little bit of good news in that Senate Bill 75 did not pass. And just a little recap, that was a 2% reduction in what our funding would be for next year. It also was sending money, Kansas taxpayer money, and putting it in an educational savings account that would allow kids who met requirements of being either free or reduced to attend a private school and take that money that was designated for public schools and sent to private. I was very open, with you guys, and I felt like this was a poor bill. It did not pass. Now, does that mean we don't have funding? No. It means, if you remember last session, they've approved our funding for the next 2 years. Because of the Gannon Supreme Court case, our funding is set as far as, but what they were trying to do was reduce our funding. Now, there are some other things that did not get the 20 mil extension that we have every year. That will, when they come back for their veto session, the omnibus session in May, where they do, it's kind of they call it the wrap up or whatever you want to call it. They'll do that to probably extend, because I assume that will be taken care of. We have our funding, but there's other things like special ed, state aid that they still have to work out, and those things will hopefully all be worked out. I'm not anticipating we will hear any difficult news on that, but we're hopeful that everything will stay and we maybe survive. Now, the interesting thing, it did pass the House. It passed the House 6459. Then it went to the Senate. Senate, of course, if you followed any of it, had several votes, and it tied 20 to 20. 59 House members did vote to support us, and 20 senators did vote to support us. I do think it's important to note, our local House of Representatives and our local senator did not support this bill. That really would have been catastrophic for our school district. And I think that's important for us to understand. So just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that.
Wait, clarify, they did not support the bill?
Well,
or
they
did not
supported Senate Bill 175. They did not
Right.
support us.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was trying to clarify.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
High school vaccine clinic. Wednesday, we're actually going to have a high school vaccine clinic. The Ellis County Health Department is going to offer a vaccination clinic for students 16 or older, Wednesday, April 14th at 1 to 4. And this is going to be done, of course, at the old Gordon store at the mall. Of course, the doses are limited. It's going to be a first come, first serve. 16 and 17-year-old students. They must have parents present to get the vaccine, and they'll also receive the second dose if they need a second dose. So we're starting that whole process. We're now getting some students. And surprisingly, we do already have a lot of high school students that have already received the vaccine. So things are looking better. Summer school programs. Just wanted to give you a quick update. We are really kind of ramping up as we are preparing for the summer. Looks like we're going to have some summer school programs. We're going to have right now a K-2 summer program that will focus on reading, and a middle school program that will focus on students who maybe have struggled and are a little deficient in some areas, as well as what we have done traditionally in the past with high school and summer school and trying to do some credit recovery. So those plans, Shannon, do you want to add anything to that? Okay.
unless you have questions, but parents will be hearing about it as, we really, the first thing was making sure we had staff who were willing to, teach summer school, so we have a good feel for that. Parents will be contacted, maybe at the middle school even this week, then through the elementary schools, teachers will be reaching out to parents, so it will be more of a targeted population that we have this summer, so it's not just for anybody to sign up, just for parents to know that, but more information will be coming. And then with the Learning Center, typically for credit retrieval summer school, we're going to have math at the high school with teachers there. So we're always looking at ways that we can improve that summer program even for our high school students. So it's exciting, and some of our ESSER funds obviously will be used for that as they're meant to be.
Fantastic, thank you.
Our first negotiations meeting has been scheduled, got scheduled this afternoon. Will be April 21st at 4 p.m. So
Okay.
we'll be
Is that here?
It will be here, yes. And we'll be getting an invite out to those. And as you've been hearing, our February gas bill arrived. And as you can expect, I'll let Chris share the exciting news. I'll let him unveil it. But we have been working with KSB. We've been exploring our options, and Chris is going to share some of those options.
Okay.
So, I don't know why everybody else gets good news. Through the short straw, I guess. It is better than we thought. We were anticipating anywhere between 7, 12. Even heard some 20 times higher than normal. Just for perspective, when you look at the March and April bills, which would be February and March gas usage, we're usually around the 37,000, 40,000 is our kind of a 3-year average. We had about $20,000 in bills, so we were anticipating around 16,000. The bill is $88,674. So that 2-month period puts us at around 110,000, which is it's about 3 times higher than our 3-year average for that period. It's actually about 2% higher than what we paid on an annual basis for the last 3 years on average. So right now, because we're a member of K-Jump, which is through the Kansas Association of School Boards, so we're part of the purchasing group, they've in working with Symmetry, who is the gas provider, there's 3 options right now. And KSB went out and hired or has representation, has legal representation with a high-powered gas attorney who is not only working with KSB on behalf of schools, but is also working with hospital association and also an industrial group. So there's several people working with this attorney, and at this point in time, right, as of today, we've got 3 options. The first one is we could pay our bill, $88,700 something. We could pay it in full and receive a 5% discount if we pay it in full right now. We could also pay it over the next 6 months, and we would receive a low interest rate through Symmetry. Third option is to pay the statutory limit on gas, which is 4.57 per MMBTU, so per unit price. Our per unit price for that period was about 117. The statutory limit is 4.57, so the difference, it takes the bill from 80,000 down to 20-something thousand. So we could choose to pay that statutory price and then get in, become a part of the KSB coalition, working with this attorney to sort things out with Symmetry. And then at the end of whatever negotiations they come to, then we'd be responsible to pay for whatever is determined to be fair value of the units of gas to be used. They're also working with Symmetry to make sure, because that time basically everything went haywire, they're working with Symmetry, the legal counsel is working with Symmetry to make sure that all the bills are correct and that all the bills are fair and accurate. At the end of that period, after we pay our 4.57 per unit, then we would pay off whatever is deemed to be the fair value. If they couldn't find resolution then, of course, another option would be to join in some sort of a class action lawsuit, which would become a lot more expensive. Right now where we're sitting is our recommendation where I'd like to proceed is tomorrow we're supposed to get some more definitive answers of what the actual process is. They continue to work with Symmetry over this week. This was the information I've given you is from Friday. They were continuing to work through legal counsel and Symmetry. We'll have kind of final answer tomorrow, and we'll be able to make a decision. My recommendation, plan to move forward, unless we hear something crazy different tomorrow from KSB, would be to pay the 4.57 and then join in the KSB coalition, which is a $900 fee to get into that pot, I guess, and then go from there. Questions?
If we would opt to do that, Chris, and then the negotiations, I hope I'm using the right language, but are failed,
Yeah.
do we have another option, or are we part of the stream moving?
Well, so really, there's not much risk of paying our legal, the statutory rate right now and then joining in with KSB. I mean, we would be putting out $900, and we'd be forfeiting that 5% discount that they were giving us. KSB seems to be pretty confident, and through their legal counsel, that something better is going to be reached. Now, it probably won't be all the way down to 4.57. I mean, it's probably going to be somewhere between the 20 and the 80,000. But no, by joining in, if they don't reach a resolution, then we might be right back where we were, or somewhere in between. And at that point, then KSB and we would have the decision if they would choose to go to some sort of class action lawsuit, then we would have an option of discussing and deciding if we want to join in on something like that. They seem to be pretty confident that it won't come to that. With as big a group as is the schools, as well as Hospital Association and the industrial group that they have, hopefully we get to something good, something amiable between what the bill is right now and what our average would be.
Best case, we save some money. Worst case, we have to pay
Paying
it.
it all, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know how far-reaching this is? Is this regional, or is this just Kansas, or is that organization inclusive for the region that dealt with all this cold weather?
What we're dealing with right now, through the attorney that we're using is representing these groups in Kansas, but it is regional. It's all over the country.
I mean, because it was a
Or
pretty
all through the
far-reaching
Midwest
region.
with the cold snap.
Okay.
But there's no penalty or interest right now if we just pay there's no downside, really.
Yeah, the only downside is they're offering that 5% right now. But after KSB got their legal representation and the firm started talking with Symmetry, that's when they came up with, okay, we'll give you 5% net to pay now. For us, the risk is pretty small. We can put $900 into the fund, pay our legal obligation, the 4.57, and not have any late fees or anything. They're not going to shut off our gas while we're doing this, going up with the KSB group. So the risk is not great right now.
I know you don't know exact number, but do you feel like quite a few districts in the state will be going the same direction?
The people I've been reaching out to are kind of in the same boat. They're waiting for tomorrow. If we hear something extremely different tomorrow from KSB, we might change our mind, but a lot of the people that I'm talking to are leaning this way. 3 out of 4 probably.
Bill, do you see anything from a legal standpoint from our side going to option 3 for now?
I kind of agree with what Chris is saying. I think that third option is the way to go.
Okay.
Because you're going to be out to 5% and a $900 fee to join the pool, so to speak, but you've got a potential to gain a lot more.
Yeah, our 5%, Chris and I were visiting today, and that's why we felt like the risk was worth it. I mean, we kind of debated everything. Like $4,400 is what the 5% discount gets us. Right now, if we pay the per unit statutory rate at $475, that's we would be not 65,000.
65,000.
65,000. So that's why I'm like, we need to at least. I mean, we're out 900 at the worst case right now.
So the meeting is tomorrow, you say? And
well,
then,
we get, for the last 2 weeks, we've been getting updates from KSB a couple of times a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. And tomorrow, they're supposed to to come up with, or be able to deliver us how we physically actually tell Symmetry, we're only going to pay you 4.7 at this point, and we're part of the KASB coalition, so that we don't get the gas shut off and that we don't have late fees associated with that. So if they were to come back and say, oh, they cut the bill in half or something like that, then we would want to rethink. Our bill isn't actually due until the 26th, so we've got a little bit of time. Anyway, we're not up against the deadline.
Okay.
So, but like I said, unless something crazy comes out tomorrow and it really is just the details of how to pay the statutory minimum, or the statutory maximum, I keep saying minimum. Statutory maximum for gas per unit is 4.57. Our bill is 117. We'll go, once we figure out the mechanics of it, we'll pay the 4.57 and keep you updated where it goes from there.
That's good.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. It's always something, huh?
We're trying to figure out a way we can blame it on COVID.
Yeah, right. Okay, Ron, should we move on to the discussion? We have four items for discussion, 5 items for discussion tonight. We have the district perceptions survey results, the technology audit, Hayes High School and Hayes Middle School security camera bids, district staff replacement devices, and our district COVID plan update. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, I'm going to have Rick Nobles. Rick is with Excellence K-12, and he was in partnership with VLR Architects, and he completed a survey for our district, so I'm going to let Rick just take it away.
Thanks, and thank you all for having me. I'm also clicker challenged, so if you would advance, that would be lovely. Here's a PowerPoint.
Is there not? I don't know what to do there. Hold on, we can get it in there.
Is it one of the PDFs?
I think we just have the survey, Rick, but we can get the PowerPoint. I didn't realize it.
You know any good jokes, Rick?
Yeah, the PDF's under the administrative content.
All right, dashboard. Did you send it to me?
I sent it to you Friday.
Oh, Rick, I don't think it might. Let me go to my junk mail.
That's where all my stuff goes.
Yeah.
Say I was taking it from Stephanie's stuff, and I didn't see it.
Tell you what, you guys have the executive summary of this, and I think you all have access to the dashboard. So let me just walk through the information on the PowerPoint. I'll give you the overview. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. As you know, we did conduct a 300 complete phone call survey in the district. The way that works is we buy a list of all telephone numbers in the district, both landline and cell phone. Then we randomize how we call people. At the end of the day, when we break that geographically to match a population pattern, it gives us a statistically valid 5.6 plus or minus margin of error, and a 95% confidence level on that. I had to call my son and ask him what that was, and he says that he's 95% sure that there is a 5.6% margin of error. So there you go. It is the same methodology that Pew and Gallup and other really smart companies use for surveys. We ask people, they have to know they live in the district, they have to be a registered voter, and they have to affirm they are the head of household, either male or female. We always start the survey with a series of grading questions. It's easy for people to give the school a grade of A, B, C, D, F. You don't need any special knowledge of what's going on in the classrooms. And we had about 10 things that we asked about. You'll see in your executive summary there, safety of students, very high quality of education, 4.31 is very high. That would be roughly the same thing that I would get out of the Johnson County, Kansas City School District, so Olathe, Blue Springs. So very good grades there. Overall, the grades were very good. The overall grade is 3.98, a little bit higher than average. The next 3, 4, 5 things there, efforts to report plans, value received for the tax dollar spent, those tend to be pretty low. Value for the tax dollar spent at 355 is the highest I've seen in about 5 years. So you're doing something worthwhile. Hey, we got it. District efforts to respond to citizen concerns and involve citizens and community, those are always pretty low. 3332 for every person that you have who comes to a board meeting, you got 1,500 out there who don't really know what's going on and no one has asked them and they don't come forward. So I didn't see anything in that that I would be alarmed about. Strengths of the school district, this is an open-ended question we ask. Provides good education academics, 74 mentions, that's great. Teachers at 52 mentions, again, that's very good. Areas for improvement, was especially surprised and happy to see update facilities. It tells me that your patrons are aware that there are issues that the board is trying to address. Don't know, it's a good thing when you have don't know when you say what's wrong. So that's a good thing. And then, again, managing expenses in the budget always tends to be a low score for every school district. We then ask the question, if the district puts forth a bond issue in 2021, how likely are you to vote? Not to vote yes or no, just to vote. 80% of the people said very likely, and 18% said somewhat likely. I doubt you will get 98% turnout when you do go for a vote. This tells me that people are very interested in what's going on with the school district, that they care, and that they at least want to participate in some fashion. They're saying that they want to do that. Support for a general bond issue to address long-term facility needs. We didn't do a laundry list of ideas for this. The scope was just to say, hey, let's do a benefit of the doubt with people. Strongly support and support, you add those together, and you got 68% of people who would approve of a general bond issue. That's a good number. Only 19% opposing is a better number. So that tells me you don't have a huge gathering of people who are ready to sabotage you. In every district we work with, there are 15 to 20% of patrons who are opposed to everything. We call those cave dwellers. CAVE stands for Citizens Against Virtually Everything. So you always have that number. You don't have more than that. That's good. And then you've got about 14% of people who, I can't answer that right now, but 68% is a really good number for you at this stage in what you're doing. So, very pleased with that number for you. Where patrons get their information about the district, we go through this exercise so that when you get to the point of putting on a campaign for a bond issue, you'll know how to reach people. Friends and Neighbors is number one in just about every school district that I've worked with, and we've worked with, 300 or 400. The Hayes Post is number 2. Hayes Board of Education, number 3 at 60%. You guys must be out and about, and people talking to you all the time. That's really high for the board. And then the Hayes Daily News and Teachers. I'd like to see the district's website and the district's communication efforts be a little bit higher than that. So that may be something for you to ponder how you can improve your communication so you're getting kind of more than that. Frequency patrons read information about the district. Wow, 79%, at least weekly, which again tells me that your patron population is very interested in what's going on. That's a really good thing. That is my brief presentation. be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Who's your sampling vendor? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
Who's your sampling vendor?
We work with Midwest Research Associates out of Leawood,
Okay.
and they have a company in New Hampshire where they buy the list from, but they're our calling partner.
Okay, I was just curious. We do some research too, and it's
Yeah.
scientific telephone samples out in California, but okay, enough of that. I just was curious. Tammy, you had something more important probably.
Well, no, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if this is a question for you, Rick, or Ron. This information now is used in what way now? How do we continue to build from it? And thank you for all of that.
Well, I think the logical question is, do you want a next step? Is that based on the information that you're seeing? Is there a next step that, right now, I would say overall, people feel pretty good about our district and what we're doing.
Because this phone call, this was done over what time period again? Just this spring, right?
Yes.
Or late winter?
Yeah, just a month ago. Yeah.
A month ago. So it's very related to COVID.
Yeah.
Current.
And I would just, I'll just interject that what it says to me is that, again, the patrons are happy with the district, but I do see some appetite among patrons to improve facilities. You had very strong numbers there. You had people saying facilities was the biggest weakness. So a logical next step for you is to determine, is a bond issue in your future, and move from there. I say you have a good foundation for that.
Very good.
Okay.
The table that shows the total survey N of 300 gives the percentages, the points for safety of students, 4.52, quality of education, 4.31.
Yes, sir.
Then you have parent survey, staff survey, and community survey. Are those different surveys, or are they just slicing and dicing the data up that you have?
No, those are three different surveys. In addition to a phone survey, we often recommend that districts do online surveys for particular audiences. They're not scientifically accurate beyond 50-50, plus or minus, but it gives you some pretty good insight into what your staff is thinking, what your parents are thinking. Then it gives general population the opportunity to have their voice heard. So you can always say to them, we did a phone survey, we talked to 300, we did an online survey where everybody could tell us what they wanted. So that's what those are. Thank you for mentioning that. Forget about those.
It looks like the numbers are pretty close to the scientific survey, so that's encouraging.
Yeah, pretty good. Often what you get with the online surveys is you get the extremes on one end or another. You didn't get that as much. So I think there's a plurality of thought. I think that's good.
Go back to slide.
Yes.
I do think that it's interesting you brought this forward, Rick, but that's one of the future requests, is to have a community outreach. And to me, this is data that does show that need.
And I just think that this is really important now to have this kind of information. I'm not sure really how the fall is going to play out with the new school year starting, but this may be a really good jumping off point to really reintegrate the community in the school. Like you say, well, at least the 300 of you are saying, all right, 80% of the 300 of y'all are saying that y'all care enough. Well, prove it at this point. Like how, can we get you to the baseline? What sort of beginning of school year events will be there before we go big into bond?
So we need to have a good discussion of whether we pursue a bond, of course, and then we have to, part of that discussion is, do we do it this fall? Do we do it next spring?
And these are not decisions you're going to make this evening.
No.
But at the same time, I have had quite a few discussions with the DLR architect.
Okay.
Had kind of tentatively maybe thought we could follow up Rick's presentation with DLR. Decided that we would postpone that, but
okay.
if if there is interest, I would like to bring DLR next meeting on the 26th, just to present
Yeah.
some options for you guys to look at in terms of what you could consider as a board making this.
I like it, I like it. One thing that we were sort of criticized last time was things were moving too quickly. I think people really should get the idea that we're taking this slowly, step by step. So we got this information here, we'll get information from DLR, the board will decide whether we even move forward or not.
Yeah.
If we do, we
I mean,
just slowly move down the
These
road.
decisions aren't going to be made, right away, but at
Right.
the same time, I think we can progress through them. I think what you're seeing with the survey data tells us that, and I'll say it again, people think very highly of what we're doing. And I think the thing is, there's some support out there to possibly look at moving forward with some facility updates.
Very good. Okay.
Thank
any
you.
more questions?
Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was some good information there. Good, positive information, too. Okay, technology audit. Right? Yeah.
Sorry I lost your PowerPoint. It's in the junk mail. I'll know next time.
We're going to hear about the technology assessment that was completed for the district's technology operations. Okay.
Okay. If you remember, it's been quite a while ago. We completed a tech assessment for the district. Well, I think there was just, overall, we wanted to look at about how we can manage our technology needs in the best possible way ever, because, I think as board members, you understand, we spend a tremendous amount of dollars on devices, but it's the other side, and infrastructure and everything, that when we deliver this, we got to get our money's worth. And so we participated in an assessment. I think we got some good information, and it's been very valuable. I think there were some concerns about our network security. There were some concerns about our aging network infrastructure, and just even in terms of just how responsive we were being in terms of fixing some of those issues. And so, in a quick summary, they identified some areas of strength in our district. I think they felt like there was some areas of strength for just leadership. And leadership is not just me as a superintendent, that is at the board. The board has been very forthcoming in terms of approving dollars for equipment and devices, which has been awesome, lots of support. That's great for our district. Overall, our classroom technology is a real strength in our district. We have lots of devices. We have lots of desktop computers, laptop computers, projection equipment, lots of things out there. We also have just a very dedicated instructional staff who are working really hard to promote professional development. Marie Henderson does just an outstanding job as our instructional technology coach in promoting the use of technology. So some really great things going on in our district. I think the areas that we were kind of identified as areas that we could work on improving is just overall our technology plan, developing our technology plan, and then articulating that out to people in the district so they understood exactly where we were going with technology. We also need to probably work a little bit better on our technology committee to make sure it's a little more regular, and I think we have already taken steps to make that happen. And I think sometimes the technical expertise for just the network infrastructure and just our server management, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. Our IT department is outstanding. Scott Summers and his crew, they just do a great job, but sometimes they do need some help. And so we've had, and also an area that is probably really I want to highlight. We've pushed a lot of our infrastructure to the end of its life. Our servers, our switches, our access points are just at the end of life, and that was identified in this tech assessment. They talked a little bit about a need for some data backup and recovery system. That is a little misleading because we do data backup. We do have a recovery system. The thing that we don't have is we don't do it outside of the city of Hayes. And a lot of times they want us to have a backup system outside of Hayes. Should something catastrophic happen in Hayes, we would still have the ability to get that. And that's something that we can consider. You know, I think the thing is, the one thing they identified, and this is probably just a sign of the times, we had a lot of pre-built tools, tools that were built by maybe IT people who worked in the district previous and had the ability to write and some programs that we were utilizing, they were working. But the problem is when those people leave, our support leaves, and sometimes it's very difficult. So getting away from some of those kinds of things are probably important for us going forward. And just also continuing to expand our professional development opportunities. You know, I think the thing is what we're really wanting to build is a vision that these devices are tools. They're more than tools. How can a teacher transform learning in their classroom with the tools that are provided? And so I think that's really an area that we want to stress. You know, overall, the assessment was good feedback. I do want to compliment Scott and his crew. It's sometimes tough to be the one, you know, being evaluated and looked at and opening your dresser doors for everyone to kind of see everything that's going on. They handled it extremely well. I'm very pleased. And we've had great conversations since. We've seen some, even just since the assessment was finished, we've seen some great progress in taking some of this feedback and making some changes. So overall, I'm very pleased. I feel like we're heading in the right direction and feel like, you know, we've got some things that we need to work on, definitely. And probably some things I'll be bringing to you as a board, one of those being our aging network infrastructure, as it is at the end of its life, and if we're going to deliver the best, you know, quality learning experience for students in the classroom every day, we've got to have reliable technology. And so we've been working on some things that we'll probably be bringing to the board very soon. So any questions, you can ask Scott, you can ask me. Scott would probably be a better response than me, but if you got some questions, we'll do our best.
No, but I have a comment. Yeah, we have pushed these systems to the edge of their life. But in a way, that's a good thing. We got the money out of them, right? So now it's time to probably move forward with some other infrastructure, as we've discussed those ideas. Anyway.
I have one question as far as one theme in terms of that overarching vision for technology. Are you working on establishing that, or?
Well, I think I touched on that slightly, is that we're really trying to create this vision that these are just more than tools that, like a textbook. It is how can we take the tools and transform learning in the classroom to something more than just, it's an iPad that I open and I keep my assignments on. So.
Because and you know what, I think I was thinking of what Scott had shared with us in terms of a rotation and budgeting, but it's more the educational aspect. Thank you for clarifying that.
And/or both, having what we need to support the learning outcome, which is the end goal. So we had a digital learning plan, so we have a goal. We need to mesh those two. One was working more instructionally, informationally, so we really need them to work under the same umbrella, and they're meeting weekly to do that. We talked here recently, we'll look at that vision and goal we've had and how it aligns to our big district goals, because really it needs to align to that, because everything we do is about those core values and bringing our best in every student every day, and just how can technology help support us in everything and anything we do. So that's the direction we're going to go with that, and just try to, again, communicate, make sure we get that out so that everyone understands that.
Great. Thank you.
Scott, with the infrastructure, as far as I know, obviously they put in here a lot as far as with aging and stuff like that, and we know it's been in place for some time. Is there a plan to go through and, I guess what I was hoping that we could avoid on this is a massive forklift upgrade again, but is that something where we're looking at, doing like maybe switches in one phase and then access points, or building by building, or has any of that been really discussed at all, or?
Well, really, the option I've looked at right now is the forklift upgrade. And in doing that, I know the scary part of the forklift upgrade is cost associated with that.
Sure.
And the second piece is just, I guess, the moving cogs in doing that.
Right.
The only, I guess, more of the reason I looked at the forklift upgrade from a cost standpoint, we did get in, we met all the deadlines this spring to get into E-rate. So we actually have applied for E-rate funds. We're waiting to see if that's approved back, but if that is, we'd actually be spending, roughly $100,000 less on the whole system than we did 7 years ago.
Gotcha.
Which also, the district did not access E-rate funds 7 years ago.
Right. Yep.
So this will probably be less than you spent 7 years ago,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable that you're 7 years in the advance and you'll be spending less than you
Yeah.
spent.
Cool.
The only other reason I looked at the full system was I knew if we looked at access points, I mean, everything is kind of going that cloud managed route.
Right.
So if we were moving access points out there, some of that, I guess, management of that would play back over our current switching.
Sure.
But not in the.
And if we can get a lot of that funding from E-rate, it makes
Yeah.
sense to do that.
Really, I mean, the big thing I'm looking at in this is the reliability of the system. And I think that's what the end user is going to see all day, every day. But on the back end, I'm looking at more analytics, the ability for us to troubleshoot what the system can give back to us.
We should be able to pull a whole lot more information with the new
When
stuff.
we pair it, switch, and access point, we get way more information out of it.
Cool. Thank you.
Any more questions for Scott, folks? For Ron? Okay, thank you very much for that. It's good to know we're moving forward. And I guess we should be prepared for some bills to come our way, huh? Okay, next is the Hayes High and Hayes Middle School security camera bids. I guess I should say R, there's two bids, huh? Where's that?
Kick this over here real quick.
I always love when the tech guy kind of struggles.
All right. So tonight, what I wanted to present to you, a couple years ago, we started with Hayes High. We did really a full systems kind of replacement out there with intercoms, clocks. We added in some networking. One of the, I guess, that was laying the groundwork. At that time, we got an optional bid for the replacement of the camera system out there. We didn't proceed forward with it. Fast forward to this year, and Chris and Ron can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when they went out to discuss with the building administration, capital outlay, concerns, ideas, things that they have going, I feel like cameras landed in the top two of every building. So knowing that, we looked at it to see how best we could, I guess in good terms, avoid a forklift upgrade across the whole district, because the cost associated with that would be quite large. Every building could benefit from the camera system, but we wanted to start out with the two big buildings, Hayes High and Hayes Middle. So we put that out to bid. We have one building currently in the district, ECC. We did their camera system this last summer, coming into the fall. We're actually buttoned up on that project, all but the 2 video door stations, and we've actually tracked that. That's an issue back at the laptops running at the building. So, but other than that, the system's up and running. So we took kind of that idea of running that access camera system out there, working with Next Tech here locally, and working with INA out of Ellenwood. I had 2 separate vendors walk the buildings to give me independent assessments, and then took that and kind of crafted it back into the RFP. The RFP went out, came back. We had 2 bids on the system. Next Tech was one, INA was the other.
Okay.
Next Tech bid out the access system. INA bid out for a Visualon. Low bid came back, and I guess that's what should be attached from Next Tech. I think.
Scroll down. I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Just scroll down the next few pages.
Yeah, it's towards the bottom.
Page 8.
Sorry. So low bid came back from Next Tech at $149,426.22. That second bid from INA was at $241,816.82. So it's about $92,000 difference there. I can tell you, in looking through the RFPs, they both met specs. I said one was access, one was a Visualon. Specs were met. Warranty, Next Tech had a full warranty. When I say that, the MVR, the recording piece, and then the cameras themselves were 5-year warranties all the way around. The Visualon system was 3 years on the MVR and 5 years on the camera. So Next Tech had the better warranty on it. And then as far as the installation and servicing technicians being here local, obviously any response time to that would be a lot quicker than coming out of Ellenwood. So those were the, I guess, minor points that differed, but obviously the major point was the $92,000. What I did want to show you tonight, I know it's one thing to talk about the camera systems, and it's probably you walk through the buildings, you see the camera sometimes, and sometimes you don't. So I definitely wanted to kind of show you tonight what was going on. And the reason I didn't attach this in the actual board documents tonight was just from a security standpoint. I didn't want to publicly post where camera locations would be at. But I did want to share with you kind of the coverage. So what you're seeing here is the way the high school system currently sits.
True.
Now, you can see there is a very large kind of section of the building here where we don't have hallway coverage. We may have one at the far end of the hallway, but nothing really back. The main entrance, there's one up front, but there again, not the best coverage. Exterior to the building, we've got 2 cameras covering the student lot. You kind of see those down low where it says student parking. Those are PTZ cameras, so they're on a track rotating through the parking lot. Good and bad of that, you do get, it does follow through, so you get a whole view of the parking lot. The bad side is, sometimes that run can take, I think we timed one of them out, it was like 30 seconds for it to get through its run. So a lot can happen in 30 seconds when it's looking the other direction. So we've got 2 out there. We have one in the back lot. It's up here off the storage room. That one actually pans the entire staff lot, so it doesn't get you a good vantage point. And there again, it's on quite the trip. So it's panning from one side to the other, zooming in. There's a lot. I mean, a car can make it almost all the way through that parking lot without being seen, or just being seen very briefly. So, like I said, that's how the high school system currently sits. The proposed design for Hayes High would be this. It adds in quite coverage. I honestly don't think there is a way to get through that building without being seen. Some of the areas that we have added or changed up, when I talk about those student parking lots, even that staff parking lot, that PTZ camera happened to go through its trace through the lot. We've actually added another camera underneath that's doing a full quadrant look. So
okay.
even while that camera's panning, you've still got another camera watching this quadrant. You know, it may not be as zoomed in, but you can still see what action's happening in the parking lot at that time. Almost every corner of the building, we've added in those 4-quadrant cameras. Staff parking lot, you get a lot of student pickup and drop off there. And then clear at the back end of the building towards the building and the greenhouse area. We don't have good coverage there that kind of watches out towards that baseball field.
Right.
You know, those were some other projects that maybe to consider down the road, getting some of those outer buildings covered, but this would at least give some coverage out that way that we don't currently have. And there's always traffic coming and going out there, so there's benefit to that. Everything you see mostly, and Nate, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the cameras you see in the hallway, if they're not rounded, they've got that straight shot, they are a corridor, like we can pick between corridor and normal view on it, so if you think a regular camera, you get that wide angle shot, so you're recording a lot of lockers and things like that. The corridor view actually flips the orientation of that camera slightly, so you get more of that long look down the hallway, the ability to focus that way. So, it does look like there's some gaps between cameras here, but that actual ability to look down the hallway, we gain far more there. This is putting in a door station up at the front office. Currently, we don't have that. So it would allow for two-way communication to verify who the visitor is before they buzz that door to let them into the office. The other thing I wanted to share while you're looking at that, because there again, I know sometimes it's, pictures speak more than I can on it, so I grabbed a couple screenshots today of what the current system looks like. This is the cafeteria at Hayes High. You can see what's going on in there, but it's not quite sharp focused. You get non-COVID year, you get kids elbow to elbow in there, fight or something like that. It may be hard to distinguish what it actually is going on in there. Library, one of the things I want to mention here, instead of having the far back view, we've actually located to a fisheye camera in the center of the library. That fisheye camera can actually de-warp into a 4-quadrant view. So from the center of the library, we're going to get a lot better picture of what's going on in there. I'm a little biased towards that because I like that. That's where we store the computers in the summer. So having the coverage over that makes me feel a little better. This is your front entrance right now. It is a high camera in that kind of vestibule towards the far end. What you're looking at the far end of the camera there is the secured entrance pathway. So that's the best view that we've got of somebody coming into the building, which is not great. A couple students in the hallway today. I did not blur their faces for privacy. That is the camera itself. So just wanted to kind of show the kind of quality there. And that comes back to if we are trying to follow a kid through the hallway. I do believe that the staff out at Hayes High and Hayes Middle, you got to be on your A game. You got to know what color that kid's wearing that day. And that's about how you can track them through the hallway.
Will the new ones allow for like variable focus and optical zoom?
Yes, I do believe. Is that right, Nate?
Most of the cameras would have a digital zoom.
No optical?
Your PTZs would have an optical lens. An optical lens is actually adjusting the focus of the lens. Okay. Most of them are going to have a digital zoom.
Okay, because digital's pretty worthless, so that's the only reason I ask.
This one I want to point out, this is that staff parking lot. That is what the camera sees on its far trace. And it actually does zoom in. That is the only view that we get of the staff entrance. And that's where a lot of the students congregate for pickup and drop off. So I know they've had incidents out there, so getting the camera back down towards that end I think would be valuable. Your weight room. I mean, I put this out there just that from a liability standpoint, if some kid just missteps with weights or you get somebody in there after hours, having that room covered, and so we did make sure that that's covered with 2 fisheye lenses in there, so full coverage. And this is the last image from Hayes High, and I just want to point out one of the issues we do deal with, and this was mid-afternoon, so it's not quite as bad, but towards that end of the hallway, the mornings are terrible there. Most of the cameras just wash out, so you can't see what's going on. And the new system, I'm not saying it will deal 100% with that, but it can deal with it on a lot better, a lot clearer basis, and actually adjust before that washout at the end of the hallway. So, real quick, I'll do the same thing with Hayes Middle. Your coverage at Hayes Middle, you really got more coverage towards the FEMA section. I think that's just, Craig, you might be able to tell me if I'm right on this, but I believe that's when the MVR, the DVR for that building was updated when that FEMA section was added. So the coverage at that end of the building is a lot clearer. It's newer cameras. The rest of the building is still the old analog cameras that are fuzzing in and out. But I do want to point out areas that are not covered at Hayes Middle. We have no cameras in the gym, cafeteria, library. We have nothing that covers the staff parking lot behind the building, and there's only 2 cameras that really see that student pickup and drop-off area. So the new proposed design at Hayes Middle is this. There again, it does, we really wanted to look at the exterior of the building, make sure that those areas were covered. Gym, cafeteria, library, those are all covered too. Kind of the same story, Hayes High. I did grab just a few. View of Hayes Middle. So there's the 200 East hallway there. Same hallway. You can tell the resolution's a little bit better there. You can make out the number on the back of the shirt there, but still, the sign up there in the hallway is kind of blurred out. I did want to point out, also in the design, there's 2 cameras at Hayes Middle that have been turned to focus on bathrooms. And that's because of vandalism, things going on, they need to track who's going in and out. Those cameras are actually meant to be pointed at an entrance at either end of the hallway. So knowing that, and that's not just a middle school problem, that's a high school problem, knowing that that's the fact, we did include cameras at those areas dedicated for that, just to know. And I think in all those areas, we actually have them recording, or they're not recording sound, but the ability to record sound. So like Hayes High was having some issues with vandalism. We could go in and toggle that mic just for that period of time, because it actually did work out for us. We've got a loaner camera from Next Tech out there right now, and we were able to hear the trash can getting scooted around the bathroom, and identify back the kids going in and out. So there is, some of that thought going back into this design. It's not just putting cameras back in the same areas for the sake of putting them back in the areas. We actually sat down. The administrators got to tour the building with us and give their 2 cents on everything too. The Commons entrance at Hayes Middle, this was, like I said, the middle of this afternoon. That camera is starting to go out, and so, very dark. I don't know that you could really pick a kid out of that if something were to happen there. Loading and receiving area, there again, it's just, the still shot doesn't do it justice. When you're watching it in live time, you can kind of see those waves through the screen. So they're up and down. This is one of the FEMA outside cameras. Like I said, clear shot there. The actual FEMA camera hallway, clear there too. So front of the building, you start to see those waves in the camera again. Student parking lot, I think if I understand pickup and drop off right, happens about right in this area. And then that's one of the other FEMA cameras. So that's the last one, the last student one, kind of that full shot. But there again, the lens on the camera I think has seen better days. So I guess I'll leave it at that if there are any questions with pieces coming together here.
I just have a few, and probably my naivety is showing with these questions, but so God forbid we ever had an active situation where police are involved. are any of these cameras able to be turned at the point as needed, or are they fixed?
These are all fixed, except Hayes High does have PTZ cameras on the outside of the building for those parking lots.
Okay.
I mean, you could go PTZ all the way through, but the cost you incur to do that and probably the benefit of that for those moments, there'd be someone. You kind of made me think about something there. I did grab just a few other photos I did want to show you. On the proposed system going in, we do have it over at ECC, so I grabbed a couple shots out of their system today too, just to give you a contrast compare with quality. Interior of the hallway, you can actually read signs on the doors. Parking lot, you're able to clearly see make, model, color of vehicles going through there. And I think that's helped Donna. They had a little hit and run bump in the parking lot. She was able to pull the video and get it out into the right people right away. And that's a shot of their playground there. So, a lot quality, I guess, is what I'm going at here. Hayes Middle, the MVR is a bit newer, but the cameras, for the most part, I don't know the age on them. Hayes High, as far as I understand it, that system was actually put in somewhere back, I think. When I talked with Marty, I think that might have been funds used after Columbine, so we're talking early 2000s, like 01, 02 maybe.
When were those PTZ cameras put in? Are those just a couple years old at the high school?
The front parking lots?
Yeah.
I'm not sure on that. I know that if we have issues with it, Pelco is still warranting those cameras, so I don't know if Pelco, if that is because they're still truly under some sort of warranty, or if they've got a lifetime warranty of some kind on it, or maybe I just think that they're being shipped off, and maybe maintenance is covering the bill on it. I don't know. Part of this would be a little bit of a shift in, maintenance does a lot of the camera install and upkeep right now. These cameras, as we go more towards the MVR and the IP-based cameras, that is shifting off towards IT.
Is there, so will we keep these images for life or for a certain amount of time and storage? What is that?
Storage at minimum, I wanted 30 days of recording. To me, most of the time an incident happens, we're going to know about it within a few days. So if we go back, the system does have the ability to bookmark. So I know Donna's done that with an incident out there. We can bookmark it and exclude that from deletion. So even if 3 months goes by, that clip still stays on that MVR until we say, yep, we're done with it. So from an investigation standpoint, if something happened, we need a copy of video for police, we'd be able to keep it on there.
Are they currently 30 days, or is it like 15 days?
Hayes High, I think, is a little over a month. And I think Hayes Middle, we're pushing right under 2 months there.
The elementary?
I have not dug that far into the elementary systems yet. This year, we're looking at Hayes High, Hayes Middle. A year from now, fast forward, we'd like to come back and talk to you about the 4 elementary schools and get them up to speed too.
Scott, you talked about running all the cables at the high school, the kind of preliminary. That wasn't done at the middle school, so was there a difference there?
That was not, but the bid includes that, the installation of the cable. And that's a conversation I need to have with the superintendent, but we are looking at this summer if there's going to be some other structured cabling jobs. I mean, it's kind of one of those, if you're at Hayes Middle and you're opening up the ceiling to pull camera cables, we might look at pulling phone drops in, so we're just prepped for that down the road too. I wouldn't say it's going to be the full project that Hayes High was, but I think there's some of that we could bite off at Hayes Middle to kind of prep us going forward.
And Scott, both options would give the administrators the option of looking at the cameras, going through it from a, let's say, a different location, not just from the school option, let's say, they don't spend 24 hours a day at school.
Yes.
They're at home and something needs to be looked at on a camera. Can they check it at home?
Yes. We'll have to address how that works. You know, there's part of me that says, yep, the easy way to go is open it up and let's run it. But the network security side of me wants to make sure that we're not unnecessarily opening ports in the firewall. I think with Access, they do have this secure remote account that can traverse some of that for us and not limit the need for us to really open up the firewall. But that is something I've looked at just to make sure. I ran it off my phone, DCC off network, just to make sure. You know, we can pull that. It's not the quickest thing, obviously, pulling that amount of video over cell, but you know, it is doable.
Okay, so the plan tonight is to review the bid, and then you'll come back to us asking for us to approve it.
Next month.
Okay? Any more questions before we move on, guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate that. Nope, well, maybe you still have more.
So he's not moving.
I'm not.
Staff devices.
Back
Yeah,
to
there
back
is.
to back.
Okay.
District staff.
You get next week off or something, right? Okay, district staff replacement devices. Oh, we talked about this before.
The replacement devices, what we're looking at, normally we come to you, talk about student device replacement. This is the off year for student device replacement, so nothing to talk about there. It would have been K-1-2, but that was all looped in with the 345 purchase last year, so thank you for that. That actually, I mean, that's going to save us some work going into this next year. This year, though, it's been 5 years since we've done Rockwell devices. And when I say Rockwell, it's Rockwell, transportation, kind of that all kind of underlying miscellaneous district staff.
Okay.
So I tried to get the bid done this afternoon. I was unable to get that because our tax exempt slip had expired with Dell, and so it wouldn't let me generate out the quote without the tax exempt slip, so I should have that tomorrow. But roughly what we were looking at, number-wise, get back to my other number here.
81 devices?
Yes, 81 devices, but I was trying to remember the breakdown.
So desktops,
Had 54 laptops?
54 laptops.
You got it right there.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty solid on the desktop number right now as far as cost. They're coming in at $550 a piece, and what that is, I guess the beauty about Rockwell is they're business machines, so they don't have to be anything fancy with touch screens and world-facing cameras. So I mean, they're just going to be your business runners here. i5 processor, 8 gig of RAM, 128 gig solid-state drives in them. They are going to be the micro PCs, so as far as desk space, we'll actually be able to probably mount them to the back of monitors and free up some desk space for people.
Okay.
That does include 5 years of warranty on it, and that's a conversation that I've had with the superintendent, is trying to align the warranty with the number of years that we're going to cycle that device.
Right.
So that is 5 years of pro support that includes accidental damage. Does include keeping our hard drive next day on-site repair, and then the 24/7 support. The only other piece, and I kind of shared it with the superintendent, and this will be another year down the road. Once we do cross the threshold of so many pro support devices, the Dell will actually assign a dedicated technical account rep to the district. So if we're seeing issues, hinges on devices going out, we have a single point of contact to talk to on that, and it's not going through their global support chain. The purchase this year wouldn't push us over that threshold. It would be probably more the student device purchase at Hayes High next year that would do it if that goes that way. The laptop, as far as Rockwell's concerned, same specs, probably looking at a 14-inch screen. I know we've done 13 in the past. Well, the last model here was a 15-inch screen. And we may tweak some of those specs just on one-on-one basis. If somebody really does utilize their laptop as the daily driver, we might increase that to a 15-inch screen. There's been interest in some of the machines here having an i7 processor just from some of the, I guess, the intensive process to go through with Excel and things like that. Getting RAM and processor to support those, because the i5s that we have now are struggling to get through some of that.
Okay.
The only other thing with the laptop is there would be a need for a dock with it. The docks now, what we've had in the past are the hard docks that the machine actually drops onto. From what I understand, that's a thing of the past. As machines go thinner and lighter, that was probably the first thing to get axed. So now it's USB-C docks for charging and all that. So there would be the added cost of buying that along with the laptop.
Oh, okay.
Do you get large monitors for the
I guess
laptops?
the old school with my place.
Currently, I'd say most of Rockwell, that's already been addressed in the last couple years. As
And they
funds
don't
become
need to be
available, we've
replaced.
replaced a few monitors here and there. So there might be maybe a dozen or so that we could probably address that still with, but for the most part, monitors have been updated.
Okay.
Is that warranty the same on the laptops?
I don't know that. That's what I don't have that in writing, but that's what I'm going for. There again, trying to align that warranty for the full rotation.
You have on there as well the half of the 81 devices are SPED devices. Are those majority of those desktop or majority of those laptop, or is it still a?
Mostly laptop, because it's mostly the traveling staff.
And I was asked because your laptop's generally going to cost more, so.
Yeah, you'd be looking at the district side, 25 desktops, 20 laptops. And then at the SPED side, 2 desktops, 34 laptops.
And those will all come out of the other budget piece there. Okay.
Yeah, and when we ran kind of the rough numbers, it was almost a dead even split down the middle on cost.
Sure. Okay, great. Sounds, you could not get the invoice ready tonight? Or the
No, I
bid
should
ready
have that
tonight?
back tomorrow, and as soon
Okay.
as that is, I'll have it shared out with you.
Well, we'll look forward to it next time to approve it, right?
Yep.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, Scott, are you next? No.
I'm done for now.
Now it's Ron's turn to give us an update on the COVID situation and the COVID plan.
Yeah, I think as we've been working through the year of COVID, we have learned a lot, and probably the one thing that we have learned is nothing is ever set in stone with COVID. So, of course, our numbers district-wide have looked good the last 3 to 4 weeks. We're very optimistic. I say that with the understanding that COVID is still real and COVID is still here, and we have to take it very seriously. We are recommending some changes to our COVID plan, as we have done several times throughout this year of COVID. We are recommending some changes that we were looking at that will take effect on April 26th. So we're still a couple weeks away from making these changes, but I wanted to get them in front of you guys and get your, I guess, consensus if that's, we can do that.
Okay.
Here's, in a nutshell, just a little bit of a summary on the changes. What we're looking at, first of all, is that knowing that masks have not been anyone's favorite thing of this COVID, we understand. It's been a stressful year for students and staff in terms of masks, but we also feel like they have done their job and provided us a layer of security that has been really good. And we really haven't seen spread inside our school. It doesn't mean we haven't had spread, but we just haven't seen a lot of spread inside our schools. I think one of those things that you can attribute that to is our mitigation that we've used with masks. And although they've been very bothersome, I think we've had some value. However, going forward, because our numbers are good and vaccines are being taken care of, and you know, we're looking at these changes. Recommending that students and staff may have the opportunity to drop their mask if they choose, and this is not going to be required that they have to drop it. If someone wants to keep a mask up over their nose and mouth, that is definitely their option. But when they come into the classroom and are seated at their area, we're going to recommend that they can drop the mask and be able to have it not in front of their nose and mouth for that time period. Now, there are times that we're going to require masks. We're recommending that, you know, when they are riding on our district transportation or for routes or even activities, sporting events or outside of extracurricular, they'll wear the mask on the bus just because it's really not, it's a very confined area. They're very, very close. When they're standing in food lines, when they're getting their meals, we're going to ask them to keep their mask up. You know, when they're entering the building in the morning, when they're congregating in hallways, gathering, visiting with friends, we're going to ask that they keep their mask up. We also are recommending that our daily temperature checks will not be requiring them in the mornings like we've been doing. We also, with this plan, that just so everyone's understanding, if you're wearing a mask in school, and although we, you know, we're allowing you to drop it, if you do keep a mask up and you would have a close contact and be asymptomatic, you would be able to avoid the quarantine going forward. So we're also asking, although we have limited visitors this year, we understand as the school year goes on, there might be situations we're still probably going to limit visitors, but we would ask any visitor who comes in from the outside to wear a mask until the remainder, throughout the remainder of this year. Now, of course, these changes, they're only effective for our buildings. There are different mandates in terms of, you know, policies for league rules or CASHA activities. These do not supersede any of those in any way. And so these are the changes that, in a sense, this is just a little summary. The COVID plan, this is worked inside of our COVID plan. We just feel like we're at this point where we can safely make these changes, but still give people a little relief in terms of the face mask. So questions, comments, I'll be glad to answer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you are working in the Ellis County Task Force often. I'm assuming that's still going.
Yes.
And how is this coordinating with the other schools in the county?
We've talked for several weeks about looking at these recommended changes, and I think they're being very similar recommendations are being done at all the Ellis County schools in different ways. I did visit with Dr. Harris, who is part of our Ellis County group. Wanted to make sure that, and so she got the final draft, and it feels like this is a very smart option. She appreciates that. She was definitely not in favor of just getting rid of masks, you know, all the way. She feels like this is a nice step in moving in the right direction, but it does not feel that we are ready to completely get away from masks. So, you know, of course, she is the doctor in the group. We do probably value her opinion more than others, but all these have just been a great conversation, and with lots of people who understand what we're going through, and I think it's been a good. I think these changes are a nice step in the right direction, and our goal, our hopeful goal, and I would anticipate that we would not start the year with school face mask, but we still got to see where the numbers are. Now, with this said, once again, we monitor numbers, you know, every day, and where we're at. And should we start to see a spike, we most likely would come back with a recommendation to bring back to where we're at currently.
Sure, makes
I
sense.
just feel like we have to be aware that those possibilities still exist out there, because it has not gone away. Right now, we're in very good shape, but in other states, you've seen tremendous spikes.
Right.
And so we have to be wary of some of those things. But as we get more vaccines, and you know, I think things will be heading in the right direction.
And Tammy, I would say two of our other county schools are small schools, and so they social distance. So if anything is, you know, where ours is limited and we have exceptions, they may have broader exceptions because they can socially distance more so than we can. But those, you know, like the private school here in town, very similar to what we're recommending.
Why would we stop there if we're trying to open that option up to the students of taking off the mask in the classroom setting? It seems like, why would we not want to have the temperature just to have that extra protection if they're going to open their mask up?
What we have found is that temperature and COVID temperatures actually related to COVID haven't been a real good indicator.
Okay.
We have found this year that the temperatures have helped us with strep, with flu, but not necessarily with COVID.
Well, it's the first year I've not had strep throat just because I've been masking up myself. And I get ear infections and strep every year because I have allergies. And I have not got it 2020, 2021 because of masks.
So we still encourage parents.
I mean,
at
I'm
home.
keeping my mask because I haven't got sick.
We do want parents at home to check those things prior to sending them, and teachers have thermometers if a kid looks like they're not feeling well, so, but they're just not something that, you know, we feel are necessary.
I mean, I've seen a few of the emails from the parents. Like, what is like a tangible benefit, like, other than just appeasing a few people that are like, oh my gosh, you're just so obnoxious? Like, what is the
Well, I think
tangible...
all along, I think our approach was, you know, we set up some plans, put a plan in place that was based on the best science we could see, right? And we would ratchet it up more so if we need to, and then ratchet it downward if we can. So I think part of this is just, we've come to the acknowledgement that we can ratchet down a little bit. And as Ron said, though, if I see a spike in the cases, I'm going to be advocating to ratchet it back up. In fact, there's news reports out there that say that the rising cases are children as opposed to adults nowadays. So if we do this and then it spikes, I'll be back here saying we need to put a mask on. Yeah.
Shannon, I guess to address one of the things that you had made mention with some of the other schools with social distancing and stuff like that, and I guess, Ron, if this is written into our quote-unquote policy and the other stuff, I know the way one of these reads, you know, is basically we're saying that face coverings or masks are requirements. You know, basically we're saying some areas where they need them where social distancing isn't possible. Well, as we all know, most of our classrooms, we can't social distance. So I guess that's my only question, is the way we have that written in there as well. And I don't know, I'm torn because I'm with everybody else. I'm tired of wearing them as well, but we have 30 days left in the year. So at the end of the day, if that's what it comes down to, I'm okay either way.
That's a little bit where I'm at. I'm real worried about it. This has been a very hard year, stressful year for all the students, all the staff, all the parents with the COVID, with the masks. And the masks have allowed us to have kids in school, I believe, because with our classroom sizes, we have not been able to social distance the way we should have, and in the hallways the way we should have. Our ventilation systems would not allow us to do the things that we needed to do that a lot of schools were able to do. So the masks were the one thing that allowed us to be in school, not remote all year like a lot of schools. So, and I see with 0 cases coming through, I think it is the time to loosen it up a little bit. But I'm with Mike and a few others. We've got to monitor this day by day. It doesn't take effect till April 26th, the way you said. And once April 26th hits here, we only have 20 school days left of the school year.
And the reason for that was vaccinations and then 2-week post-vaccination.
Right.
To reach full immunity.
No.
So if anyone's wondering why the
I
delay
agree.
or this or that, that was the reasoning, science behind that.
No, and everything I read today, and I read a lot of emails from people on different sides of this, the UKB 117, like someone down the said, it is being shown to be more active in kids than in adults at this stage, and it's the most prevalent of the variants and the virus going on right now. So, you know, I've got real mixed feelings, but if we monitor it closely, I think we're ready to try it, but like Mike said, react if it doesn't.
And, I mean, there are some other things we've been doing in terms of the cleanliness and, I mean,
Sure,
of course.
those won't stop. Those mitigation things will still continue. Kids will still be asked to wash hands. Well, you know, there are teachers staying outside with the gel and they're spraying hands. Those will still continue all the way through the remainder of the school year. And cleaning and everything
Yeah.
that we're doing.
So I think, you know, again, that's one of the reasons why I think the school has been, because we've had so many of those steps, including masks.
I see the deal you have on there too with the NEA is staff from, so far from what you've heard is in support of this.
I've only visited with a few, but this, of course, I said that, you know, if this is given consensus by the board, part of our memorandum of understanding with the teachers at the beginning of the year was that we agreed to is that face masks, face coverings. So I've been in communication with them, and should you give the blessing, I will send to them, and they will have a vote this week, probably most likely, just to approve the changes in the MOU. And I think in conversations, the one thing that, and I would agree with what I heard was, you know, teachers right now, it's probably where they're getting wore down is just the constant, hey, get your mask up, get your mask up, get your mask up. And I think sometimes we're going to take that away from teachers of having to maybe continue that battle, especially as you understand, as it gets warmer, these things become really more difficult to deal with. So.
But it will not change any of our large group activities.
No, and that's we're still going to have to hound them about when you're in large groups. That's the expectation, and it's probably going to be some hounding, unfortunately. But it's just we're just trying to finish this year, get ourselves set up for hopefully a very clean start at the start of next school year.
Okay.
And I think the kids and the staff have done a wonderful job of following what our expectations were. They have done
Exceeded, yeah.
Everybody, you know,
Exactly.
it slips down below your nose, you pull it up, you have somebody tell you, but the majority of the time, what I hear from staff and teachers, they're doing what they are supposed to be doing.
I had a great conversation with Mr. Straub just last week in terms of he had really doubts about high school kids wearing masks. He really did not think high school, he thought it'd just be a war. And that's one of the things that he said he's been really surprised about, how the kids have just taken it on and did what we asked them to do. And it was really for the standpoint is kids wanted to be in school. They didn't want to be remote. They did not. And so they just did it. And he kind of underestimated. He admitted he underestimated. He thought it'd be a little bit more of a battle than it was.
I think our kids handled it better than some adults did.
So our next, when's our next board meeting? It's not, is it 26th? And that's the time we plan on implementing this?
They would start early.
You're not
That'd be
waiting for
day
a
number
board.
1.
It would start earlier that day. We just have
Yeah.
to coincide with the day.
The reason I brought that up is because I put public discussion after your presentation here so we can get some feedback from the public before we move forward. But I realize the flaw in my plan is that the agenda doesn't have us coming back to talk about this issue. Bill, is there a problem with us saying, well, you know, let's do public comment for a bit and then get back to 5.5?
No, you can do that.
Okay.
It's too late to amend the agenda, but you.
Modifying the
you can
agenda
go ahead and
barely?
modify it,
Okay.
sure.
If nobody objects.
And Ron, you mentioned that
Because I want to just get public comment.
students can wear them all the time if they want to.
Absolutely.
They're,
And staff.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no one's
so,
gonna be required to not wear face masks.
yeah.
And really, everyone that comes in the building, student and staff, must have a face mask on. And if they're in the hallways, doing business, going to the office, whatever, they would have a face mask on.
It's kind of
Just
like
when
the
they get in the
restaurant.
classroom.
Like you get to your seat in the restaurant, then you take your
Well,
mask
it's
off.
kind of funny, we've kind of been joking, we thought maybe we should patent it, we've kind of called it the restaurant.
I mean, that's what you do. You get to your booth and then you're safe in your bubble, right?
Well, let me ask the audience real quick, a show of hands of how many people want to address us now that you know what the plan is. Okay. Why don't we, Mickey, if you don't mind coming up, we'll do public comment for a minute. Let me read my little spiel here. Speakers are asked to, oh, you got it right there? Okay. In a nutshell, please state your name and address. You're limited to 3 minutes. We will listen to your comments, but we might not follow up with anything except questions, so don't be offended if we don't talk to you. So, go ahead, Mickey.
My name is Julie Eichenberry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I made up a name for you. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm the mother, my third daughter is Hannah Eichenberry. She's a sophomore at the high school. And listening to what you guys have just discussed, I just want to say thank you, because I do know that this is as hard for you as it has been for the students and the parents. But what I have noticed with my daughter is that she has spent this entire year following the rules and doing exactly what's asked for her. She's watched her peers become more and more depressed, turning inward. She went till Christmas without even seeing the face of one of her teachers. She said, "Mom, I saw him at lunch the other day and he didn't have his mask on while he was eating. I had no idea he looked that way." I mean, let's just remember that we are taking away a very important part of the kids' daily life by keeping the face hidden. I appreciate that we're going to allow them to take the mask off in the classroom. My question is, when do we go to the next step? I know that you guys would like to just finish the year out and be done with this, but these kids have waited a long time to get the reward for what they have done. You know, they are not sick, their peers are not sick. There have been some that have, they're not seeing that this is worth what we've been asking of them. And from the little bitties in the Batman masks and the princess masks who haven't seen the smiles of their teachers, to these high school students that forget what their peers look like because they haven't seen them. I would just like you to keep that in mind as you make this decision on taking the mask away and allowing the kids to just, for 30 more days, just let them be free. And yes, if the numbers come back up, you know, I understand, we gotta immediately put them back on. But I just want you to consider the emotional part of this. I know as a parent, it's just really sad to me when I hear the kids in my living room talking about the school day and they just haven't seen each other smile. It just takes away from the joy. And high school can be kind of a struggle with some really great parts added in. This year, a lot of those great parts have not really been that prevalent. So that's my request to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I wrote down your name and I misspoke. I apologize for that. Okay, anybody else? Okay, please come forward. Again, go ahead and state your name and where you're from, and 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Casey Herman. I'm living here in Hayes. And I thought it was interesting what the gentleman said with the phone survey. He said one person at a Board of Education meeting was 1,500 people. And I just wanted to point out that Luke left. He had to get his daughter.
Mhm.
At least 3 other people, Kayla. That's a lot of people that don't like these masks, and including the lady who just spoke. I mean, my daughter, she's been to the doctor at least 3 times this year for strep throat. My kids usually get it once a year. So it's way up. I mean, one mask a day, 1 water bottle a day. Well, we're doing everything. You don't touch the toothpaste thing, and just, tired of paying the doctor for antibiotics and strep throat. And there's a Board of Education election this year. I went and looked up the vote totals. 1,300 votes was the low vote for getting on the board in 2019. So what was there, 3 or 4 spots open? So you guys do need to listen to us, and you do need to stop this. This is my opinion, not right. Thanks for letting me come here and talk.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, let's move back to our discussion of the plan. So you need from us a,
Well, you know, as we've
Thumbs
went
up,
through
thumbs
this
down?
year, we haven't done an official vote. I've just kind of
No, I
asked for
Consensus.
consensus from the board. You know, if we feel like we're not having consensus, we can definitely do a vote.
I do have a real quick question. Right now, what's the language we use for visitors that they?
Right now, we're not allowing visitors.
Okay.
You know, we understand that as the year goes on and things, you know, just naturally end of the year stuff. There's situations where we have some retirement receptions and things like that, people who have had a career in education, you know, sometimes we have receptions at schools. And so I think there's going to be some situations where we want to allow a few visitors, but we're just not going to, we're not going to open up that lunch is going to be, you know, where parents can come eat lunch. Not at this point. We're hopefully that we start the school year that next year, but probably not throughout the remainder of this year.
You know, I just realized that if we would have got those vaccines sooner, we could have taken off our masks 3 months ago.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and say just out loud, I support your plan, and I suggest we move with it, but that's just my opinion. Anybody else? No. We need to give him an idea.
I'll unofficially second you. I think as long as we keep tracking those numbers, if we do see an uptick after the 26th, we usually get them within about a 4-day turnaround is what we're seeing. So, and being the fact, I just think I've seen something in the email that made me really concerned. For students that do decide to continue to wear their mask, I do hope that it is immediately stamped out that there's any sort of prejudgment, bullying, chastising, anything like that going on. Like, I hope that the same energy is given to stop that kind of negativity in the classrooms if that ever occurs. I know if my son ever says that someone was trying to chastise him because he chose to keep his mask on, I'm coming right on up there. See my face, because it'll be there.
No, absolutely. And if there's anything that maybe is a positive, we always look for positives in COVID. I think there has been an acceptance that, because I've been in places where people don't wear masks, and people do wear masks, but I think it's just like there's kind of that maybe acceptance that.
It's definitely a learned behavior, so just, yeah.
I think it's a good compromise. It's allowing us to make a step to remove the mask, and then, like you said, it's a plan that we can change, and we've got several board meetings, so we could come back and revisit it if we need to.
We could definitely do a special board meeting if we see something. And I think we're gonna err on the side of safety, and I think that's. I mean, we understand where we've been, and we've had some. I mean, I think back to September. My goal was to get to the end of September before we probably had to go remote. And there was several times where I did not think we were going to make it to the end of September. So we've been in some tough situations, but we were able to kind of grind through, and that's just a credit to our staff, because man, people that were doing the work out there was amazing. Because we went through some rough times. You know, right now things are good, and I'm hopeful that we'll stay good.
And we could celebrate those seasons that we've completed that we didn't know if we were able to. And some of those
Yeah.
teams, I remember those football teams, they went kind of overboard with the face shields and everything just so that they could not make the quarantines. And that's something we got a couple more baseball and softball and track, so I know they're wanting to do
They just had a
that.
prom this weekend, right? They just got to have a prom. So some
Yeah.
schools
Prom.
didn't have that. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Graduate. We wanna
they're
be able to
having
finish
some
school.
stuff, so.
Yeah.
You know, I want to remind everyone that when we started discussing this issue it seems like 5 years ago, but discussing the issue, we really tried to do a balancing act between the needs of our children, our staff, and our families, but also the best possible scenario for the health, physical health and safety, emotional well-being, social growth, and of course, academic achievement. So we really worked hard to get kids back into the classroom and to balance these, because we know they grow socially and emotionally by being in the classroom. And I guess my point is that we're not making these decisions lightly. We're doing the best we can to balance different things out.
And I think that-
appreciate your comment from Dr. Harris. I take a lot of credence with what she says through Hayes Med and on that. How I also want to, I haven't heard any talk about the nursing. Our nurses have done an outstanding job this year. How do they feel about this?
Well, I think, and this was done with Jessica Rowe, who was what we,
Right.
our COVID. I mean, she was definitely part of our,
And
and
she's
she's
the
had
leader.
a lot of input into this plan. And we valued her opinion because there were several things that she was not, was a little hesitant to. So I think the thing is, I think in a nutshell, I mean, everyone is on board on this plan and feels like this is a very good, like Alan said, a very good compromise to moving to the next step going forward.
I will support it with the blessing of the doctor on the committee and the school nurses.
I think
Good point.
the only other thing to add, and I'm sharing my support as well, certainly we've all ran because of people that we envision, and they're in our hearts is why we've all, I think, ran. And yet, because we're elected by a public, we also, sometimes we're making decisions that maybe my kid in his junior year is going to be impacted, and I would maybe have done something different if it's, as a mom I was voting, but I'm not. I'm voting as a public elected official. And so certainly have a lot of people, it's definitely difficult and to sometimes know that you're making a decision that friends and family won't always support. But I guess we're doing it, I think we're all trying to do our best by all means. And we appreciate all of you being here tonight to show your support or share your thoughts, because that's also not easy to do. So I guess.
Very good.
It is real because I have had some conversations with the 73 deaths in Ellis County from COVID, and I know several of those families.
Well, one of them is my mother, so.
And I think it
Certainly
speaks to
impacted,
our staff, administration, and the other stuff that we were able to get this far anyway. I mean, I've got some
True.
friends that teach in Topeka, and I mean, they just got back in the classroom here in the past, month. So, I mean, they were remote learning the entire time. So I think it's, like I said, it speaks volume to the staff, administration, the students, the parents, everybody else working together to at least allow us to have in-person classes and go from there. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I know it's been a tough year in terms of everyone has had different opinions about what we should be doing or not doing. But I will say overall, we have just had everyone's worked together really well. Even though people were on definitely different sides of the fence and what they felt, and we really have not had a lot of contentious debate, and I think we've been able to understand by just kind of everyone working together, we can get through this, and I think this is just that logical next step.
Okay. Good idea. I get this consensus, we're all on board for this next step. All right, so moving on to future agenda item requests. Item number 7 on the agenda.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I know we've had in the past some type of report that talks about the fees of our district and what they go to and what we've spent them for. If we could have something like that and maybe even look at the possibility of reducing or even eliminating those fees for enrollment, mostly enrollment, because we've had so much COVID money and we've been able to save some money there. It'd be nice to be able to pass that on to our patrons and our families next year. So if we could look at that maybe at the next meeting.
I know we do discuss this, is it?
In one of the meetings it's brought up.
Is it about now?
As we get closer to enrollment.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
If you want to have a conversation and discussion about.
Well, yeah.
You know, possibly looking at waiving some fees, that probably needs to be a discussion we have right away, because it's definitely, you know, although it's not going to make or break us, but it would be something that we'd have to figure out how that impacts us.
His budget's coming up and we'll need to know, so.
I do
Thank
know,
you.
I was going to ask a question, but real quickly, I know we lowered fees a couple of years ago, and then I think we held them steady.
Done it a couple of times where they got rid of
Yeah.
like that we had the sunsetting in there for like the kindergarten stuff. Once the state started paying for it, that was sunsetted.
Yeah.
And there's been several other ones that were lowered as well, just anytime we could or were able to do some of that. So I
I'm all
think
for
it's
it.
probably a good idea to at least
I'm all for it, yeah.
evaluate it and look at it
At least
again.
look at it. The second thing was, I forgot to ask the question earlier on, when do you think we'll get more firm budget numbers?
Well, the veto session is May 3rd, so we're really not going to probably have anything official. During that's a wrap-up session.
Okay.
And I mean, I think that will let us know exactly where we're at. I am anticipating, well, of course, there might be some games being played or planned for the wrap-up session. I'm hoping not, but I would anticipate our numbers to look similar to what we were planning, but I think we can't have anything official until May 3rd.
Okay.
I guess the only thing that I think we should be cautious about is if COVID allows us to reduce fees 1 year or 2 years, but then we have to raise them again, we may, I mean, it's a lot harder pill to swallow to raise.
Definitely got to take that.
So we want to
into account.
definitely look long-term. So I don't know what that means in terms of budget.
Well,
goals,
that'll
but-
be part of the discussion that I
Okay.
think you'll have.
Another thing is that we have in the past, because it's only, I think it's 8 weeks away, and like the gentleman said, that elections for our new board, so maybe we should put that on our website, that's an opportunity for our patrons if they want to, and what the process is, that they have to have by June 1st, submit their intention to run. So that's coming up in a short time, so I don't know, I mean, that's something that we've done, I don't know how much we would need to do, but it'd be nice to have that out so people know that there's an opportunity to serve if they want to.
Sure.
Sometimes the county board clerk does that versus us.
Committee on the city
It's usually
commission,
put out
committee on
publicly.
the
Yeah.
School board.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
mean,
a new
we
person.
We just certified that we are going today. We certified that we'll be holding a school board election today. So if they, I don't necessarily know what they do or how, but they will have information. I think I had Jess send it today. Yeah.
Okay, one more item for the, I guess, next time I want to hold an executive session with the board to discuss the evaluation we just did for the superintendent. Tonight, I have the report, the draft report written. I'll hand it out to you guys. You can look at it, get some feedback to me, and then we'll discuss it as a group next time. Because I don't think it took me a little longer to put it together than I planned. I was out of town last week. Okay, so I'll do that. Instead of holding an executive session, I hand it to you, I'll just give it out tonight. Okay, anything else, folks? Okay, I'm going to move to close the meeting, so I'm going to do so. I move to close the meeting. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Anybody abstaining? Okay, Motion passes 5 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay.
Quarterly also helps if people can read on that too, right?
Yeah, no, it's okay. You can tell it's a draft because I actually left the title